What is up to all my Dune fans out there? We are here today to tier rank all the Dune characters deep in the human unconscious.
Sean Delancey, 13 Action News.
Is a pervasive need for a logical universe that makes sense.
But the real universe is always one step beyond logic. So I am super excited for this. Dune is my favorite science fiction series of all time, one of my favorite book series of all time. And on this channel, we cover all the greatest books and authors of all time. So if you guys would like to help me get over 1,000 subscribers, because that's my big goal right now, that would mean a lot. And there are actually a couple other Dune videos on this channel that you can see up there right now. And let's get this party started. And this is in alphabetical order. So we first have the one, the only Aaliyah Atreides, the demon from the womb. What all the hippies think when they take psychedelics that their kids are going to be like, there's actually a whole community of people out there that get stoned, take mushrooms while they are pregnant. Obviously not a very good idea, but I'm imagining they think they're going to have an Aaliyah Atreides. The kid's just gonna come out talking. Like, how bizarre is that? If we're just talking about characters in general, she came out of the womb conscious. She takes the Baron out as an infant, man. Like, that's some OG stuff right there. But we have to talk about the whole arc, though. I'm honestly going to throw Aaliyah up here at an A, because even though she's a weird character, she tried to be incestuous, and she obviously went to the dark side and was weak. A lot of it wasn't her fault, and it was actually a very necessary character arc, because Frank Herbert planned out the characters of Dune through a Jungian mandala of the archetypes. And I have two big theories about Aaliyah's archetypal resonance in the book, because I think that she contrasts Paul, and Paul can either be the hero or the trickster. And I 99.9% believe that he is actually the trickster when you look a little bit deeper into the definition of the trickster and what Paul did over the course of the first 3 books. But if Paul is the trickster, that would make Aaliyah the sage. And she does have those sage qualities, because she is, all-knowing and has prescience and is a very skilled fighter and a skilled leader before, she gets possessed. And if Paul is the hero, then she would be the creator. And I don't think the creator makes as much sense, just like as Paul as the hero doesn't make as much sense. And I think the sage is a good pick. And I think that Paul, because we have to ask ourselves, right? Like, who did Frank Herbert contrast Paul with? Because if Paul is the trickster, then someone needs to be the sage. And when we look at the characters, let's say in the first 3 books, we could say that Lady Jessica is a sage, but she's really a caregiver. We could say the Ben Gesserits are sages, but they could be more rulers, creators, or outlaws. So I actually think that Paul and Aaliyah are contrasted with each other as the jester and the sage, which is really cool. And it's very sad that her character had to take such a negative turn. Once again, it's really good writing by Frank Herbert, and I really enjoyed Aaliyah Atreides. As you guys can see, I can go on and on, but we don't need to turn this into a 2-hour Dune ranking video. So next we have Chani, and it's actually funny, and it's funny that the actress that played Chani was Sean Young in David Lynch's Dune, and she's been kind of known as a problematic actress, and I love how that's contrasted with Zendaya, who's like the golden child of actresses today, the queen of the SJW movement, cultural icon. And then we have Sean Young, whose career after David Lynch's Dune had a lot of problems. So anyway, Chani as a character, though, I'm honestly going to give a C. She doesn't have that much depth, and even Paul at times treats her like a very crude person. And she makes a lot of good sacrifices, and actually is a very mediating character to Paul's temperament and a lot of the crap that he's trying to pull. But she's also complicit to the genocide of billions of people that Paul Atreides went and did. And I can't really get behind that very much. I feel like there are a lot better female characters in Dune that are going to receive a much higher score. And I'm actually going to try to make this like a bell curve. I want to give everyone an A or an S on this ranking, but I'm going to try and hold back my love of Dune and do a better job. So we have Dr. Yue, the betrayer, the Judas. Let's go. Can I get some let's goes in the chat, even though the chat doesn't exist? And Dr. Yue is also going to receive, I'm going to give him a C too, but he doesn't get a D because he is so pivotal to the whole story. Without him, we don't have any of this. Like, what would happen if the Atreides just got to hang out on Dune? Would Paul become the Messiah out in the desert? Probably not. But he's also a snake in the grass. He's a Judas. We can't give him that high of a score for thinking that he was going to save his wife who was, getting prostituted out. Like, come on, Dr. Yue. Like, I know that love, makes people put the blinders blinders on, but be like, hey, give me some proof, man. Like, bring her along and let me see her. You know, if you're gonna make negotiations with, you know, big powerful people, then you gotta make sure that they follow up with their end of the deal with like a third party or something. Like, you can't play these games. So we have the man himself, the reincarnated Duncan Idaho, aka Jason Momoa. I don't think they'll be. I'm so excited. Like, can you guys imagine? I think they're doing a trilogy of Dune because they know that, you know, Dune Messiah and the Children of Dune won't go very well. And how the hell are they gonna sell the God Emperor of Dune to a modern audience, man? The Marvel audience, man. You know, they had to bring in Timothée Chalamet, Zendaya, Jason Momoa. Like, they had to bring in the whole crew to sell Dune. Like, imagine. Anyway, so I have to give Duncan Idaho an S, man, because he is such an iconic character, and all the things and ideas and life and just pure pages that are given to Duncan Idaho. He is an iconic character. When you see in the second book that he's been resurrected, it's shocking in the soul. You're like, oh my God, like, you can feel it. And then you're told that, like, that's going to lead to the downfall. And then in God Emperor, when he's just being brought back time and time and time again. And then in number 5, gets brought back again. It's like, was it Gula? It's like, oh my God, like, it never ends. Like, we don't see, like, he's the only character that actually carries through the entire time, which is actually really cool that Frank Herbert developed a system that could carry characters, you know, through reincarnation of memory, through the Ix or whatever, for the whole course of Dune. And then with the whole memory things, because that's a problem, right? Like, if we have this universe with, you know, in a science fiction series that stretches 10,000 years, how do we keep resonance with the characters from the start to the end? And one of the ways is obviously through reincarnation, or, you know, the prescience or the past memory connection. And so that's how we actually get informed about, like, Leto the First, for instance. Like, we learn way more about Leto the First from past memory than we really do in the first, you know, 150 pages of Dune 1. So next we have Prince Faradin Carino, and he's got to go down into the D category. I mean, his basic role in the whole series is just to be a stud for Ghanima and to prevent some assassinations from happening. He becomes the scribe and takes Erlin's place, but like, overall, he's not that deep of a character, even though he's like, you know, he's just like, what role does he really have other than just like a very minor character to push some plot lines for? How am I gonna rank him higher than, you know, some of these other characters? So next we have Fade Harkonnen, and I mean, I'm just gonna throw him down here at D2. Like, he actually could go in, I mean, we could throw him up here in the C category for fun, but no, we're gonna throw him down here at D. I mean, there's some good moments with him, like the duel with the Atreides guy, and when they actually are like fighting out in the arena. Like, that's a really good moment, and obviously the climactic moment with Paul Atreides at the end of Dune 1. But overall, he just is kind of a brute who just is being exploited by the Baron. And, you know, not too much character analysis needs to happen for Fade. But it is interesting that he was supposed to be the one who was supposed to make the Mujadib with the female Atreides heir. So, like, that's actually really cool. So next we have Gaius Helen Mohiam, who is the main Ben Gesserit mother in the first, I mean, you could say first two Dune books. And I'm going to throw her up here at a B because, of course, she's a part of the most iconic scenes in Dune with Gom Jabbar. She's behind a lot of the plots. She's, you know, helping out House Carino, even though she doesn't have, I mean, a B might be a little, she's really a B minus, because then she is a part of the conspiracy to overthrow Paul with Skytail. How do you say his name? Yes, Skytail and Princess Erlin. And eventually she gets assassinated, but she overall does a pretty good job. I mean, if we're looking at the tier ranking, she does more than any of the 4 characters below in terms of like impact and like pushing the story forward. She is our initial prime example, other than Lady Jessica, of the Reverend Mothers of the Ben Gesserit, and that's a pretty big deal. So next we have Ghanima Atreides. And Ghanima is an interesting character because, like, she is an important part for helping form the golden path, right? She's there, but, you know, Leto then makes the choice to, like, not, you know, to keep her out of it, and then when they separate because of the assassination attempt, her role is basically gone from there, and eventually she does marry Leto the First, and they don't consummate the marriage, which, you know, I guess is a smart idea. But I mean, if you're gonna go, you know, I'm not gonna go there. But so, you know, I'm deciding. What do you guys think? What do you leave a comment? Does she deserve a C or a B? Because, man, I'm gonna throw her a B right now just to be cool. But when I see the final result, we might need to throw her down to a C because, like, she is a big character in the story, obviously, but her actual impact is like kind of small. But she, for a while in the middle of the Children of Dune, she actually is just as helpful and soaring toward the golden path with Leto. So next we have Glossu Robin, and he's, the Baron's uncle, and he's the one that, is given Arrakis and told to mine it, and he had been controlling it before that, and then eventually Fade has to take it over. He's eventually assassinated, and honestly, he's just as down here as a D character. He doesn't do that good of a job. He's really pretty minor character. So next we have Gurney Halleck, and I want to give him a D because like he was the one, he should have had some better security measures for the initial onslaught, but overall he's a classic character, and I'm tempted to give him an A, but I really think okay, she's going down to a C. I think he's really a B character because he has an impact, but he kind of fades into the distance with Lady Jessica, and he doesn't have that big of an impact, but obviously his musical and poetic impact, among other things, is very important in the story. But he also helped Paul when he was discovered, with the smugglers. He helped him gain some confidence and helped him amass, the army and like do other things. So he is an important character in the story. So next we have Hasamir Fenring, and he's another character that really, he's an assistant. He was, among other things, he doesn't have that big of a role in the story though, and I think he's got to get a D. So next we have one of our first major characters in a while, like major, and we have Lady Jessica, man. And I would give Lady Jessica a B, but a lot of the things that we learn later on in some of the other books about Lady Jessica because of other memory and other things really show where her head was at, and like her major step as a Ben Gesserit rebel, and like she's honestly like one of a very, very strong female character with very good morals and like a good head on her shoulders and knows how to move away. She moved away from Paul and from things until she was needed again, and she was living her own independent life and stayed loyal to the Ben Gesserit order. I mean, she is doing, I would say that she is an absolutely fabulous character. We also have to remember, in book 3 that Lady Jessica was a huge part of the, of that book, and figuring out that Aaliyah was an abomination, among other things. So I'm gonna throw her up here at an A with Aaliyah because Lady Jessica's an OG, and like I love that she has this negative reputation for the rest of like the Dune verse. Everyone's like, it's all her fault that we lost order, and it's like the Golden Path, is so insane because like that's what needs to happen. Like even now, like Leto talking about how we needed to get rid of all the negative attributes of man. Like that's what he did, that he was going to, scatter the universe so life continued and try to remove some of the crazy problems of man. I don't have a list with me right now, but he lists them, like all the things that problems with man and that like need to go. And it's like obvious, like when we look at society today, it's like these are, obviously inherent and like been with us for thousands of years, but aren't really necessary because like, yeah. Anyway, so next we have Leto Atreides the first, and Leto Atreides only has so I'm gonna throw him at a B because he has a small amount of time, but once again, like I said earlier, you get a lot of information about Leto and his life and his love later on through other memory and prescience and through Leto the Second. Really good stuff, actually for that, for helping give some space and depth to Leto Atreides because like his death is so insane, right? It's like, oh my god, like Leto fucking Atreides, but that's the end of it. But you get so much more information. So we talked about Leto 1, now we need to talk about Leto 2, the God Emperor, the Sandworm, the most OG thing that's ever happened in a book of all time. When I was reading the series and I realized what was happening, I was like, oh my god. Like I have never been more mind blown about a series than when Leto the Second said, screw it, I'm becoming a Sandworm, man. I'm going to, ruin the Ben Gesserit breeding line and go 120, man. Like, could you imagine? Like, that is grade A literature. And then in book number 4, he just is spewing political, social, ecological, and philosophy and psychology and all these other OG things that if anyone who was actually reading took that shit to heart, they could transform their life. But most people, when they're reading any book, even a book like Dune, they're just like, and they're like, this doesn't apply to me in my life. But there's all this infinite wisdom that Frank Herbert's trying to pass down to us. But because of that and Leto the Second's impact, we got to give the OG himself, the man, the men of worms, AS, man. Like, what a legendary character in literature, man. Like, I still can't get over this. I still can't get over the 4th book, even though it drags a little bit. There's so much wisdom, even as him as like a child. He was an OG the entire time. So we have Lee Kynes here, and even though he has a very short impact, I'm going to throw him at a B because one of two things is, one, that his bloodline, Chani's his daughter, and like that bloodline continues, and that's obviously important, but he is the spokesman, the mastermind of the ecological transformation of Arrakis, into a lush and beautiful place eventually. And like that is a wonderful vision, and that, like, what a even from a spiritual perspective, like he was a genius. I mean, I wish I could give him a higher score, and maybe I should. You know what? Let's just throw him up here in an A, because like an ecological perspective of Dune is like very important, and one of the Dune's actual impacts in a canonical way into like modern culture. We can say it's done all these other things, but it's, you know, spiritual ecologist idea of a co-creative relationship with the earth, and like among other things that, you know, we get from an ecological perspective, we're somewhat innovative and rare, especially in literature and science fiction, and a big deal for a lot of people, and are still very potent ideas that are once again underrepresented, because like the whole, you know, climate change and environmental movement has really gone political right now. It hasn't, you know, the whole Dune verse and like Herbert's ecological vision, it differs, you know, in a lot of ways, obviously, than like where environmentalism has gone now. And I think that that's actually problematic at some level. And like the ecological vision of Dune is very potent, and it's probably not enacted, one, because politically it's not viable, and two, that it would be a huge undertaking to, you know, change the hearts and minds of the globe, because Paul Atreides can do that because he just killed everyone who disagreed. But Margaret Fenring, I don't even know why she's on this. We're just gonna go throw her down here with Hasamir at a D. There's really nothing to say about her. And here we are, everybody. We are here. We are live. It is the man himself, the one and the only Paul Atreides. And, you know, I know if anyone's made it this far, we know what we're giving him. Obviously, Paul Atreides has to get an S, man. He's one of the most legendary characters in history, even though that, and it's great, his whole character collapse and fall is one of the most beautiful things of all time. Everyone talks about, you know, the white messianic complex, you know, all the SJW Dune fans out there or whoever, and it's like, shut the fuck up, man. Like, can you guys not appreciate good literature? Like, is it, everything is taboo now? Like, that's, you know, all the cultural icons and anything that, you know, those all have to be desecrated for any radical political order on the left and right to be able to, you know, indoctrinate people. And, you know, that's what both sides are doing, you know. It's very much, you can do so much political analysis with Dune too. It's insane. You know, what can you say about Paul Atreides, man? He kicked this whole thing off. He had the courage. He had the will. Without him, the universe would have probably ended. That universe at least. And, you know, sometimes that's all it takes is just one person. If we look at history, if we look at, like, Francis Bacon came to my mind. Like, Francis Bacon taking logic and philosophy seriously and, like, taking it to the next level, like, did so much for so many people in the future and helped us, you know, bring us into the age of enlightenment and, like, all these different things hundreds of years before it even happened. And, you know, his small contributions and him, you know, really taking life seriously and being a very diverse thinker and individual really made a really big impact on a lot of people, even me right now. Without him, I might not be able to have these computers and do what I'm doing. So next we have Peter D. Vries. And I just noticed this, but this list is actually only 1 through 3. I was actually waiting. I was sitting here like waiting for all the other characters. So Pieter is a Mentat, and I guess I'm gonna have to throw him, if we don't have anyone else, I'll throw him up here at a B, because he gives us all the Mentat and like almost all the analysis of initial ideas of what a Mentat is, and like the human computer, and we have the Butlerian jihad, and like we learn a lot from him and what it means to be a Mentat, and like that's actually a huge part of Dune, and that's one of the things that you can, if you think about how Mentats think and some of their mentality, it's actually really deep and actually can be a very transformational thing from a personal development level. So next we have Princess Irulan, and I'm going to throw her here down at a C, because like she doesn't do a very good job at a lot of things. She's obviously throwing birth control into Chani's stuff. She's an archiver, but she should have just, you know, been with other guys and like, dude, you're the princess. Like, why are you sitting here and moping about it, man? Like, yo, you're a part of a great empire. You're a thinker. You have the ear of Paul Atreides and everyone else. You're trained in, I think she was trained in the Ben Gesserit ways, you know, like she had a lot going for her, and like why she had to ruin it, start getting involved in conspiracies, you know, but she did redeem herself at some level by, you know, helping out in the third book. So next we have Shaddam, her father, and I'm just going to throw him here at a C, because he honestly doesn't do that good of a job. He isn't that major of a character, even though he is. He doesn't do like some insane job or have some insane, he just is the guy that you have to topple over. He's, you know, the guy that we just have to hit off the ledge, and that's who Paul Atreides had to do. And the Baron, as we're about to talk about, was a much bigger, you know, villain, at least in the prequels. So next we have Stilgar, and we obviously have to throw him up here. We have to throw him up here. And I made a mistake, everybody. Actually, Peter D. Vries, sorry everyone, it's late right now. I didn't say that he was not the only Mentat, obviously, because Hawa and like I got confused for a second because of the photos. They both have the weird David Lynch hair going on. Hawa is the Atreides Mentat, and De Vries is the Harkonnen Mentat. Sorry, I knew that, but yeah. Anyway, so Stilgar gets an A for sure because he is, the chief advisor of the Fremen. He's one of the big, leaders of the Fremen people. And really, without him, none of this would have happened. Him taking Paul under his wing and encouraging him and pushing him and teaching him about the sandworms. He's such a huge, impactful character in the story. So next we have Hawa, and I'm so sorry I got that confused earlier. And he for sure deserves an A because he is a great Mentat man. And he goes out like an OG when he realizes that it's Paul leading the Fremen. He stops helping because he has such loyalty to the Atreides. He helped, so many different parts of this story out, even though he did fail the Atreides, Once that's what I meant earlier, that he gave us the initial glimpse of the Mentat lifestyle and the Mentat mind. So next we have the Vladimir Harkonnen. And, obviously I don't think he gets an S, but he is for sure going to get an A. He is such a great villain and such a nasty villain. And, more spice. Oh, it's so good, man. It's so good to have this contrast of the noble Atreides and then just a fat, crazy guy that's just all spiced up and weird. It's such a great character pick by Frank Herbert to put the Vladimir Harkonnen in. So if you guys want to know, though, about Frank Herbert's main influences for Dune, you guys really got to go check out this video right now because I do a deep dive into Dune's origins.